What's up, everybody? Got Perry here. I know you haven't seen this beautiful face in a very, very long time, but we decided why not. We actually got a new release, which is unheard of in the year 2020. So today we got First Cow, which is the newest A24 film. I think we both were hoping that Saint Maud would have got released by now, but we got First Cow instead. And this is apparently a film that's written and directed by Kelly Reichardt. And I really didn't know much about this film. I saw the trailer back in January or something like that.
Yeah.
And didn't know much about it, but I knew it was A24, so right off the bat it's got me hooked, and I definitely want to go check it out. Did you have any were you expecting anything out of this besides the fact that it's A24 or?
Not really. I guess I was expecting a solid movie. I wasn't expecting anything nearly on the level of the films, A24 films we got last year.
Yeah.
I knew this wasn't going to be as close, even close to Midsummer.
Yeah.
Or Uncut Gems or anything.
Oh yeah.
Like
well, those
that.
have such notable directors behind them and
Right.
shit, so obviously it was going to have more hype.
Yeah.
By the way, don't mind the fact that Perry's 10 feet taller than me. I know I look like a short-ass Mexican from this ratio, but I know that was obvious when you guys started this video. If you want to see this film, you can buy it on Amazon Prime for $14.99. So if you really want to check it out, that's how you watch it. Or if you could find a leaked file of it, have at it. I'm not going to stop you from doing that either. But after having seen it, I can say that it did things that I didn't quite expect, because this was a much more subtle piece of filmmaking than I was truly expecting. I mean, it's A24, so I expected it to be subtle in some way, but this was a really simplistic, subtle film that I felt was very human and down to earth. And I gotta say, in the first half of this film, not that I don't want to go out on a limb and say that I was really bored, but there wasn't really that much that I could really latch myself to in terms of story and character, but I was appreciating the overall subtle approach. But I felt like if the film continued this pattern for the rest of the film, I might come out of it a bit underwhelmed. But I will say that the second half of this film definitely kicks into overdrive, and it definitely gets a bit more engaging. I guess overdrive is a bit of it's kind of a reach to kind of describe it, but compared to the first half, it feels like it's definitely on overdrive. But the second half actually offers something that's more of a conflict that is much more engaging, much more intriguing, and I felt much more engaged in the second half of this film than the first half. Not that it was really bad or anything, but I felt that overall this film wanted to tell a really simplistic, kind of beautiful human tale just about who we are as a species, and it really makes you appreciate the small things in life. And this is a really bare bones kind of film that takes you back to a certain era where human beings kind of had to survive off of small things, and it was a much more grittier time. And just the relationships that you had with certain human beings was pretty much everything. But with that, I'll hand it to Perry about his overall thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this film. I'm gonna say that off the bat. I do agree with Carlos. The second half is much stronger than the first half. And there are things I really like about this film. There were some really beautiful shots in this movie. Oh, yeah. Definitely shots that are going to stick with me. But like Carlos said, in terms of story and character, there's really not much to latch on to with First Cow. I think the intent was to try to have more human, believable characters, but it's not so much believable as the characters came off a little one note, because the two main characters of this film, one of them is basically the businessman, the other one's the cook, and that's literally their characters. They never really explore who they are as people, and they don't really build up much of a friendship because their whole relationship is based around their business and, you know, just trying to survive.
I can definitely see that, but like I think that the film does a decent job at like giving them a sort of like past before you get into that. They kind of, I think, it makes the dynamic a little bit more intriguing. It expects a lot out of the audience to really hang on with this film, but I think that the whole thing really works. Like I felt like this film overall is a pretty good film, and I overall really enjoyed the approach. And like Perry said, the aesthetics I thought were really well done as well. The cinematography, there are some absolutely beautiful shots in this film. The aspect ratio is shot in 4:3. Is that what it is?
Yes, it is.
So it has a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is something that I didn't expect. But it really works. It feels more intimate, and again, like a lot of beautiful shots. And honestly, the direction I thought was really on point. There's a lot of nice little subtle tracking shots in this film that really worked. Like every time there was a tracking shot, like I was really engaged with how they were going about it. And it's not like these really long epic tracking shots or anything like that, but there's just real simple like tracking shots that maybe go for like, you know, maybe like 5 feet, and they just really worked for what they were going for, because like I said, this is a really simplistic human tale, and I think this has a lot to say about people's stories and what they had to go through. It goes into stuff like, you know, if you walk over like an old fossil or an old footprint or something that's left behind from the past, it really gets your mind thinking about what led up to those traces of life, and what kind of stories led up to that, and how much nuance was there before that was actually planted, before that seed was planted. I don't know, I guess I just really connected with this film on a really like earthly human level, even though it was, again, really kind of hard to stick with in that first half. But overall, I think the aesthetics were really well established, really well done. The direction I thought was really on point. I just think that maybe if this film trimmed a solid
30 minutes.
Maybe, I wouldn't say 30 minutes.
I would say 30 minutes.
I guess I would say more like 15 or 20 minutes, because there's moments, even in the second half, which is honestly the half that I enjoyed much more. There are even moments then where like you kind of just feel like, okay, like we can definitely hurry this up and we can get things rolling on a much faster pace. And again, you know, we're people that are used to slow paced films. It's not really the pace. It's just that there, again, like when there are some really slow moments, sometimes it doesn't really feel fully justified, and you're just kind of sitting there like, you know, just waiting for the scene to end, even though, you know, we're totally used to films that move at a really slow pace.
Right. Some of my favorite films of all time are really slow paced films, you know, Tree of Life, Stalker, you know, Apocalypse Now, films like that. You know, they really take their time to get you where you need to go. But I think that I really love the ending of this movie because it does subvert my expectations. I could see like a lesser filmmaker making a film like this and having the ending just being really over the top and manipulative and as poignant as possible. But the ending would have had more emotional impact if the relationship between the two main characters was better established. I may sound like I'm being overly negative on the film. Overall, I do think I enjoyed the film, but I don't think it's something that I would watch again. In terms of movies nowadays, it's definitely better than average, but in terms of movies in general, and especially A24 films, I think it's just kind of average. Like, it does just enough to be average, because the first half of this film, I just thought it was extremely mediocre, really dull and lifeless. But like we've said numerous times already, the second half is when it really starts to come together and come to life. I could see a lot of people hating this film because of how slow the pacing is.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like, you can't, honestly, I think this is a film that's it's either for a film lover or for somebody who just enjoys, like, I guess, like a period. Would this be considered a period piece? More or less.
More or less, yeah.
Like,
I think you could say it's a period.
It definitely captures an era, like a certain older era. And, you know, if you're into that and you just find, like, history really fascinating, then, you know, I think you could find some enjoyment in this. But honestly, I think that, you know, your normal casual audience would not be able to get into this because it's just like, you know, if we're finding it, you know, a kind of, I don't want to say excruciating, but, you know, kind of hard to deal with in terms of
pacing.
Yeah, in terms of pacing, then just imagine, you know, your normal movie watcher trying to get into this. I just don't think they would be able to. But overall, like, I really enjoyed this film. I think the second half pays off in a really good way to where it leaves me on a really good note. And even the ending, like, I thought the ending was great. I really, really enjoyed the ending to this film. And again, I can see a lot of people not liking the ending to this because they would consider it to be kind of abrupt, not really tying in a lot of things together, not really leaving much of a conclusion. But
if you pay close attention, then it wraps it up in a neat little bow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you pay close attention. It's funny because this doesn't even feel like a film from 2020, you know?
No,
this
not
doesn't
at all.
even feel like something studios would want to put out in 2020, which is why I do have quite a bit of respect for the film, even though I'm not in love with it. And I obviously have a lot of respect for A24 for, you know, giving this film a chance and giving it a platform to, you know, get released to a wider audience.
Yeah, for sure. I just overall, I really appreciate the subtle approach to this film because I think this has a lot of telling things to say about humanity, and it really, again, it makes you respect and appreciate a lot of the little things you have in life because it just takes you back to a time where things were a lot more grittier, a lot more rough, and it's definitely a film that makes you really appreciate what you have, in my opinion. But it's a really human movie, very down to earth. Again, the only thing that I would maybe tweak is the script in terms of the structure. Well, I guess not the structure, but it definitely needs some trimming in terms of how long the story is. I think it could have definitely been trimmed down a lot. And but, you know, besides that, I really, really enjoyed it. So I think I'm going to give this film... It's not quite an 8, but I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Ooh.
I thought this film did a lot in what I really respect and enjoy out of filmmaking. But I will say that it's not really a film that I plan to really revisit anytime soon. I think it's really good and has a lot to dive into, but it's just I just personally can't see myself coming back to this film, but. That's my take on that.
This film is fine, and I really don't have much of a desire to revisit it. I was hoping like this film would give us a lot more material to work with, seeing as though we haven't done a review like this in almost 5 months. But just to be able to review a film again on this channel, you know, I feel so honored. And I do think overall it was a rewarding experience, even if I wasn't crazy about the film. I think I'm going to give First Cow a 6 out of 10. So I'm still giving it a fresh rating. I just think it's average. I just think it's fine.
I just want to know why you hate movies, Perry. Why do you hate cinema, Perry?
You know, if I don't come out of a film clinically depressed or completely traumatized, I don't feel like I've watched a film.
I think I knew you were going to give it a 6, but I'm glad you at least gave it a 6.
Yeah, because no joke, the first half I'm like, oh, this shit's a 5.
Yeah.
It's a 5.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if this review is really fucking boring, but it's like 1:30 a.m. We're really tired. And this movie was really slow paced and shit, so it's kind of like sleepcore, to be honest. But anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching this, and if you really enjoyed our take on First Cow, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel to be updated on more film-related content. And by the way, check out my short film Mercy if you haven't yet. I really appreciate all the feedback on that. So if you haven't checked that out, I would really appreciate it. But now I'll shut up. Thank you very much. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you later.